Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Nate Rivera, Hermiston Energy Service here. Tonight, we're going to give you an update. We're going to talk through. We were going to talk through. Is that me or you? I think it was you. All right, tonight we're going to give you an update on our construction work plan. We're going to talk about rates. We've completed a cost of service analysis. Wanted to update you on that. We are going to have a discussion about some rate adjustment options. And then at the end of this, I'm going to be looking for a little bit of direction, both on the cost of service analysis and the construction work plan. So a little background, if you remember, HES is a consumer-owned nonprofit municipal electric utility. We're the newest electric utility in the state by about 50 years. We were formed in 2001 when we acquired PacifiCorp's distribution facilities in a portion of Hermiston. Currently, we have a little over 5,500 customers with an annual sale of about 108 million kilowatt hours. We consist of 36 miles of overhead and about 20 miles of underground primary distribution lines. We serve approximately 63% of the landmass of Hermiston. Umatilla Electric Cooperative serves the majority of the rest of the landmass of Hermiston, and there's still one small sliver of PacifiCorp that serves. When you look at HES's service, we're broke up by different feeders served by 3 primary substations: the Butte substation, Hermiston East, which is the newest in 2016, and Feedville substation. So the majority of our services are fed by that, and then we have 2 small slivers in the city that UEC feeds, but we have meters on. A little background with our relationship with Umatilla Electric. It's always important to kind of identify this. Does cause some confusion in Hermiston, but the main thing to remember is after we acquired PacifiCorp service territory, it was extremely more cost efficient for us to contract with Umatilla Electric for services, and they handle day-to-day operations, line work, tree trimming, drafting, inspection, maintenance, outage response, conservation, customer service, and billing. So they are our primary contractor, and they do the majority of work on behalf of HES customers. This contract was renewed in 2011 and is set to expire in 2032. Every 5 years of the contract, we have an escalation fee that's a part of the contract. The last one was in 2020, and the next one will be in 2025. HES has 1 employee, that's myself, and I'm responsible for our BPA contract, which is our power purchasing contract. I handle our rates, our budget, construction work plan, the maintenance schedule. I oversee all the contractors that we have doing work for our customers. We have our own policies, procedures, and then I make overall decisions related to HES, sometimes using your guidance. So first, we're going to talk about the construction work plan. Anytime we lead into construction work plan, the biggest thing over the last 4 years is the increase in material costs. Everything that goes into the electric utility has increased significantly, and I pulled out 3 of them to talk about tonight. One of the main things is the transformers. So over the past 4 years, transformer costs have doubled due to supply chain issues, grid modernization, aging utilities. Storms have been a significant driver in this. Major weather events, we've seen 2 major hurricanes come through Florida. The amount of new transformers, wires, lines, poles, everything that goes into major storm repair. In the winter months, we have it in the Northeast. All of those major events have a big impact nationwide. And so we feel those just like everybody else. Cables, both overhead and underground, almost 200% price increase in the last 4 years. Scarcity of materials are really what's driving that, and the need for replacement and repair. And then poles and hardware. Our poles price has doubled in the last 4 years as well. So pretty much everything we're doing, we're seeing huge price increases. With that in mind, coming into our construction work plan. So historically, HES has done a 1, 5, and 3-year construction work plan. We've looked at our system incrementally over the last 10 years since I've been the general manager. This time we wanted to take a deeper look, really take a look at our system overall, what is still needed, from the existing Pacific Core facility to truly make it Hermiston Energy Services. We have a lot of existing stuff that Pacific Core had and it was aged. We've incrementally worked through that, but tonight I wanted to, based on feedback from you guys last time, what does a 10-year construction work plan look like? What does it look like for the next 10 years for us to have an idea of to pay for it? And then where will the system be at in 10 years? So we're looking at over the next 10 years to replace all the overhead existing copper lines that are still within the city, including all the underground conductors that haven't been replaced. So we've replaced all the direct bury wire, but we still have a lot of wire that's in conduit that's aged. And so a lot of the lines here are 50+ years old. When we look at replacing overhead distribution and underground distribution, we amortize it for about 30 years, but we hope to get about 50 years life cycle out of it. And so a lot of the copper lines overhead have exceeded those years. And so we know that this is a priority in our system for reliability. Replacing all of these copper conduits, conductors will improve reliability. This copper, as it ages, deals with heat and cold, it gets brittle and old. That causes outages when we have wind issues, line slap movement. That brittle line is the first parts to break. It also is going to allow us to reduce system size. And when we go in and replace this remaining overhead and underground distribution, we're not only improving the quality of the line, but we're also improving the ability for us to move energy both backwards, forwards, and future needs. One of the big future needs we're seeing in the industry over the next 25 years is going to be increased electrification of cars. And with those electrified vehicles, there comes with additional need for charging stations in the homes. Our system, and not only Hermiston system, but no system in the country is designed to have multiple vehicles charging with multiple neighbors on a single transformer. The system just was never built like that, nor envisioned like that. So we're having to be proactive in replacing that stuff to prepare for those next level challenges that we're going to have. So when we look at how we prioritize this next 10 years, we took a look at the outage history over the last 7 to determine where we needed to start. Anybody who has experienced recent outages are in the early phases of this change out. We also looked at heat maps and we did a full design of the system. So what we're going to do is replace all 3-phase and single-phase copper conductors. Main feeder lines are going to be with a minimum with 556. Underground's going to be 1/0 ASCR. Like I said, we're going to prioritize based on customers and loads served. So the larger the load, the more customers, we're going to focus on them after we get through the high outage areas. We're going to go into the backlot subdivisions, some of our older existing subdivisions that have lines in the backyard. We've done a few test projects over the last 5 years. How it's working and the benefit that it takes to take the primary out of the backyard that have a lot of aged trees that in wind causes damages on ice storms. It can cause tree limbs to fall into line. We're going to bring those primary street side, underground them, and then run the secondary to the backyard. So that's going to increase reliability as well. And then we're also going to give extra attention to areas that have multiple splices in them. So those are areas that we've already had to be there repair several times before. So we're going to prioritize that. So when we look at this 10-year plan, this is kind of a breakdown of the feet of copper, both overhead and underground, single phase and 3-phase. And then we also break out the backlot, single phase and 3-phase. This map's kind of hard to see, but this is a visual of where we're going to be working within the city. It's color coded to break it down into phases. So 5 phases broke out into 2-year increments. We'll come through the system. So the color code indicates the year and where we're going to go through it. So this is more of a visual. I can show you guys maps at a later time if you're interested in the weeds of it. Counselor? Or Mr. Mayor, Counselor?
So I know we're talking about years and that kind of stuff, but are we also prioritizing like areas of service? So for example, lines leading to the hospital, lines leading to the police station, keeping in mind like essential services in the event, like if there was an emergency, these are the places that we would need to make sure that their power capabilities were at like essential levels.
Yeah, excellent question, Counselor. So in the previous 10 years, that had been our primary focus, was to ensure, and then COVID really highlighted that, is the investment in our the major need areas, the hospitals, the schools, things like that. So a lot of that work's already been completed. This is the remaining areas that we haven't got to. That was a lower priority of the essential resources in the community. So we won't see as much with those because we've already addressed a lot of that in the previous 10 years.
Yeah, Councilor Primer.
What are the, I mean, I know you, maybe I missed what you said, but the colors, what do they represent?
Oh, colors indicate the phases that we're gonna do. So there's 5 different colors and we're gonna break each phase into 2-year increments. So this is just kind of showing the areas of the Hermiston. The color just represents what phase we're gonna do. So this is the overall estimated expenditure for this project. So over 10 years, we've already started the first year of phase 1. The first part of that, this is already in operations and work. We've started on this already. Over the next 10 years, we're looking at about a $15 million allocation of resources to meet this project. This is going to replace 40,000 feet of overhead and 61,000 feet of underground. So about 20 miles, so about half of the system.
The cost, obviously, I mean, you know, you look at it and it's 15, 15 or 1.5 pretty much every year, give or take.
Mhm.
That doesn't include the expectation of inflation.
A little bit is built in there, but no, the material costs, it's so hard to predict right now that we're seeing. So if we went in the more aggressive, the less years, the higher the cost. We asked them to break it down in a 10-year, but there is some inflationary part to this, but it's a conservative estimate. So it certainly could be more as we see costs go up. You're right.
Councilor Brewer.
Yeah, my question was to that effect, but more than just inflation, but you were talking about supply and demand issues.
Mhm.
And so I guess I was wondering too, if a lot of these were going to be a bulk purchase, just because we don't also know not only just inflation, but what supply and demand's how that's going to affect the total cost.
Right, that's an excellent question as well. So HES has taken a different approach to our capital work plan the last couple of years. Typically, we would do a capital work plan where we would go out and then we would bid a job, submit a job, and have, a 60-day turnaround time on it. So in the last couple of years, we've changed that because we have a budget cycle where we have the flexibility to say, okay, we're gonna package a bunch of jobs together, put it out in August, and have until March to complete. So as other crews are in the area working, they can incrementally work that. So I'm not saying you have 60 days to complete a project. I'm saying you have several months. And that works to get us a lot better pricing to be able to have crews who are doing one job with Umatilla Electric or a job with a large industrial customer to come in and do that. And so this is if we were doing it the existing way. With the new way, we think we are going to see savings in there that's going to help absorb some of that. But this is a realistic cost of what we think it's going to be to replace this.
Do you have follow-up? Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of my fellow counselors are probably going to be thinking this as well. We have a business that uses a lot of power here in this area. And
Mhm.
so maybe the question isn't in particular, can they help us with this cost, but like even knowing that they have a lot of things to purchase,
Mhm.
electrical wise, is there any ways that we can work with them to get, I don't know, better prices, or is the government price the better price? I guess, is there a partnership that we can
Yeah.
do in here?
So we do not serve any AWS facilities. So we don't have the ability to partner with them, but we have had the ability to partner with Umatilla Electric on bulk purchase. So they are our purchasing agent. And when they have a large purchase, we tag on to a lot of that stuff. so we can get their pricing with our stuff. We've done that with meters, we've done that with poles, we've done that with transformers, things like that, where we take advantage of that. We watch it really close just because, you know, we're less than a tenth of the size of Umatilla Electric. What they're purchasing on behalf of their customers gives us that ability to get those discounts. Not always, but sometimes we have a larger expense item because we're getting a better price on transformers. And when you see the price of transformers double over the last 4 years, you really try to take advantage of those when you can. Yeah.
Can you go back a couple of screens? The 10-year, yeah, that one. The 10-year, yeah.
Yep.
So you said you've already started phase one.
Yes, correct. We're in year one of phase one.
So is this a project that the council, this work plan that you have laid out here, is that something we've already approved?
No, it's not. So when I talked about how we prioritize the work, so as we went through and built this construction work plan, this 10-year plan, we identified all those high-risk areas that we still have that we needed to address no matter what. One of the areas is by Yale Pizza Shop. You know, we've had multiple outages there over the last couple of years. That needs to be replaced no matter what. This coincides with that. What we do with the long-term 10-year plan, we can discuss that, how we approach it. But this phase one incorporates that part of it that we had to get done. So this is a 10-year plan based on what we're looking at to redo the whole system. Phase one is what we need to do to maintain our system today. It just coincides together.
I have another question, but I think I'll wait till the end just because I want to make sure that you don't cover it.
Okay, you bet. So this is kind of the idea of the HES system. Once we complete this 10-year construction work plan, by 2036, all distribution, both underground and overhead, will be replaced. The two original point of delivery substations we had in 2001, those have both been rebuilt. We've added a third substation that was constructed in 2016. That's Hermiston East. All HES meters have been replaced and upgraded to smart meters. All the poles, everything have been identified and replaced. And then by 2036, HES full faith and credit obligations. So that's the loan we took out to buy the system in 2001. And that's the 2015 capital construction work plan debt that we took on will be paid in full. So by 2026, we'll have the primary system completely rebuilt, and we will have no debt on our system. And the debt right now is about 9% of HES's total expenses. So those two things will be significant. So this gets our system at the end of this construction work plan to be fully owned by the city and a fully operational, well-run system with good reliability and some decrease on some of the rate pressures. But with that comes the cost of service analysis. What is it going to cost for us to do that? You saw the overall line item cost to implement this, but this is the overall cost and impact to the ratepayers. So just a reminder, when we look at our cost of service analysis, HES is a not-for-profit utility. We're a municipal utility owned by the citizens. Our rates are set at actual cost. We have no incentive for profit or shareholders. We don't create extra reserve to give back to them. We don't retain a profit. Whenever we look at a cost of service analysis, we want to make sure that we collect appropriate revenue. Rates are stable and predictable. They're equitable among rate classes. So one of the things we prioritize is one rate class will not subsidize another. Residential will not subsidize large commercial or industrial customers. Industrial customers will not subsidize agricultural customers. Everybody pays their fair share of what it costs to operate the system for their rate class. And it's also really important for us to make rates easy to understand and feasible to implement. You know, we never want a complex rate system where people can't understand their bill. We want to make sure that somebody who doesn't know a lot about their electric bill can look at it and make sense, and it's easy. To achieve this, we work with an independent third-party firm to do a cost of service analysis on behalf of HES customers. So I provide them all the data. I provide them with the cost of the construction work plan, the maintenance, the labor, UEC's contract. They go do an analysis of everything that goes into providing service to these rate classes, comes back with a recommendation to us, and then I bring that recommendation to council. So just a reminder, in November 2020 was the last rate action that you guys approved by council. So we broke that up into two phases. The first was a 6.9% that went into effect January 1, 2021. And the second phase of that was a 6.9, and that went into effect October 1st, 2021. So this COSA result, so in fiscal year 24-25, HES is using $1.2 million from our cash reserves to offset revenue deficiencies. So we do have a revenue deficiency in this current budget cycle. So the reason we did that is we had been over the last 4 years building up reserves. So our reserves have increased, and now we were at $4.46 million in reserves. So, you know, it gets to the question, do you want to have incremental rate increases when you don't need it? And so you have a less impact when you do, or do you want to have the customers hold on to their money until we actually need it and then implement it? And so as we built those up, we chose not to come and do incremental rate increases because we didn't need the money at the time. Our reserves were growing. And then we got to the point in our last budget cycle as the implementation of looking at some of these construction work plan projects. So we used 1.2 million in that. So in our next budget year, so when we start next year, we'll have 3.26 million available in reserves. So to put that in context, what that means is 1.5 million in reserves for HES represents about 60 days of operating capital. That's the bare minimum where I feel comfortable going. At no time would we ever want to make any rate decisions or any recommendations to council that gets below having 1.5 million. So if that's our bare floor, when we got in that 4.46 range, we knew that it was time, instead of rate increases, to start spending down some of those reserves to offset that. Now, based on our conversation tonight, if we do choose to implement the construction work plan, HES will have a projected $2 million revenue deficiency in our next budget cycle. So that would be next July 1st. Of that, about 830,000, so 19% of this increase would be BPA's rate increases, including the one that's scheduled in 2026. So based on the last 6 years, we've seen about a 19% increase in our wholesale power purchases. About 1.8 million is an additional capital improvement plan. So this is, we're essentially doubling our capital improvement that we've spent historically to meet this need. And that doubling of our capital improvement is what makes up this capital work plan for the next 10 years. And then the third key driver was the material and service costs. So just doing the basic day-to-day maintenance of our system, we're seeing a 16% increase in just the bare minimum cost of doing the exact same thing. So when you look at HES's expenses, how we break those down. So 44 cents of every dollar that a ratepayer pays, 44% goes to the actual power bill and transmission. 15% goes to UEC. That's for distribution, operation, maintenance, customer accounts, administration in general. Our debt service is about 9% of our total expenses. So this goes to pay for our original purchase of the system in 2001 and that construction work plan that we financed in 2015. And the reason why we're not talking about finance tonight of the capital work plan is because the interest rates are significantly worse. It wouldn't be a wise financial decision to go and borrow money at the current rates. In 2015, we had very low interest rates, and so it made sense to spread that existing construction work plan over several years. So 9% is materials and services. That goes into our accounting, our street lights, City of Hermiston electric usage, conservation, dues, contracts, office supplies, travel, phone, transfers, equipments like that. HES, as part of its rates, has incorporated a lieu and tax payment. So other utilities have a franchise fee. HES does pay an in lieu of tax payment to the general fund as part of their rates, and that's at 5%. And then our capital outlay with this new construction work plan included, this is what it would look like. 16% of every dollar would go to that capital outlay. And then 2% is personnel for HES, and HES personnel is essentially me. So 91% of my costs are pretty much fixed. Power purchases, contract, my labor, maintenance, debt payments, and in lieu of taxes. So when we look at rate pressures, when we look at the utility and setting rates, there's not a lot of room to tighten our belts. You know, we run a very lean ship. We try to maximize purchases when we can. We've adjusted the way we've done our capital work plans by giving a bigger window of months to get better pricing. And so we're really cost conscious because at the end of the day, it's not our money, it's the citizens, it's the ratepayers' money. And so we do whatever we can to ensure that we're getting the best price we can. So here's the conversation. So I brought a couple of options for you guys to consider. So if we wanted to do a one-time rate adjustment, we would be looking at a 20.8% rate adjustment in June of 2025. This includes the capital work plan. This would also not use any additional reserves, so we would maintain the current reserves that we have. The second option is a rate adjustment of 9.93% in March of 2025, and then an additional 9.996% in March of 26. This would require us to use additional reserves of a little under $1 million in the next budget cycle. That would leave us with 2.28 million in reserves. And when you remember that 1.5 million, that's the bare minimum. That's where we don't want to go under. And then a third option is break it up into 3 rate adjustments of 6+% over the next 18 months. That would be a March, and October rate adjustment. So we would reuse reserves in our next budget cycle about 1.3 million. And then 300,000 in 26-27. Using just under 1.6 million of our reserves, and that would leave us with 1.67 remaining in reserves. So that's getting very close to kind of that floor number of spending down our reserves. So when we look at, well, how does this compare? What does this mean as far as how we compare to other utilities? What are other utilities? What are other customers in the region paying? What are customers in the state paying? And what are customers nationally paying? So currently today, HES has the lowest rate in the region and one of the lowest electric rates in the state. This is an average residential customer. And so that's where you're at today. You look at Milton Freewater, Benton PUD, which is the Tri-Cities, Umatilla Electric, which is located here, Columbia Basin, which is in the Heppner area, Pacific Core, which is Umatilla, Stanfield, Echo, Portland General, which is in the city of Portland, the Oregon average and the national average. So if you implement the full impact of the rate adjustment that we're talking about, our rates would be about $150 a month. So in comparison to the region, we would be higher than Umatilla Electric, but we would still be lower than Pacific Power. It still is a competitive rate, but this gives you a really good idea of what those rates look like. Now, in fairness, this is already anticipating BPA's rate increase that's coming next year. We've had conversations with Milton Freewater, Benton, about them having some rate adjustments to their programs. We don't know about Umatilla Electric. They haven't indicated if they're going to make a rate adjustment next year with the increased cost from Bonneville. But this gives you that idea. So in option 2, that's what I put up. So the 137 in the middle, that's where we would be at starting next spring. So we would still be competitive within our region. And then the second year, we would see that full rate adjustment kick in. So that gives you an idea of the cost competitive nature of what these rates look like. Any questions on those?
Councilor Myers?
Okay, so wouldn't everyone else also have to raise their rate?
Yeah, rate making's is a unique animal. And so based on the decisions they made in the previous rate making study and their projected costs, sometimes you can spread it over multiple. We did that, we're going essentially 3 BPA rate cases, so 6 years without making an adjustment. And so other utilities can do that, but at the end of the day, you're always going to have to either be proactive or catch up. And so we anticipate it. We know some of our fellow utilities are going to have some rate action. We don't know to what extent. But yeah, I wouldn't say, if you had to ask me, I would say we would still be competitive with our rates at the full implementation of this rate increase.
So for clarification, Nate, the HES full rate adjustment, that was the 20% increase you were,
Correct.
and so the phase one, you gave us two other scenarios.
Yes,
Phase one would be which phase one?
if we split it up into two rate
Separate
increases,
rates,
yeah,
so
two
not the
separate,
three
not the
rate.
three.
Okay.
No, I put where we're at today, if we did two, so a half, I showed you that. And then what it looks like with the full implementation. It gets a little confusing with multiple slides with the three rate adjustments.
Oh,
I
pardon?
want to make sure I understand you.
Yeah, you bet.
So on that last slide, the 124, that would be when you made that would not be at the end of the line, or would that?
So the 124 is what our rates are set today. So an average residential user is paying $124 a month.
Okay, so, but what, I guess where I'm trying to get to is at when we get done, you know, we obviously are gonna have to raise rates at some point in time. Regardless of whether it's the one time, the two time, or the three time version, at the end of the day, we're gonna be at the 150-ish.
Correct. Well, tonight's about a discussion. Tonight's about direction. I wanted to bring you guys exactly what the next 10 years looks like for capital work plan and how that impacts rates. And so over the next 10 years, it's planned that this is going to cover the cost of the construction work plan. Now, we're going to have other rate pressures that are going to go into that. Bonneville Power Administration is going to have additional rate adjustments in future years over the next 10 years. We can't predict those rate pressures. You know, costs of materials and services over the next 10 years that we're making decisions tonight on that capital work plan may change and very likely will. But what I can bring to you is the numbers that we know today projecting those 10-year increases.
I understand
Yeah.
that part of it, but where I'm trying to make sure we're getting to is that with all of the rate increases that we're discussing tonight, each one of those at the completion or at the, basically the final tally, whether it's the end of at the 2-month mark or the two payment mark or the 3 payment mark, once each one of those has been fully implemented, that's where it's at.
Correct. All three end at 150. All three options end at 150. Yep. Good question. Yes, that is correct. All three in there.
Counselor Bro?
I guess my thoughts on this is, I know every 5 years we've done this. We did this back when it was in the middle of COVID, and I think the council at that time to spare, especially a lot of uncertainty and a lot of pain, we split it up into two segments, I think 6% apiece, because 12% just felt like a lot even then. I mean, even now it still feels like a lot. And so fast forward to where we are now, and I mean, much like Councilor Primer is saying, whether we take out route A, B, and C, it sounds like the ratepayers are going to see that. The financially responsible way that I'm seeing, even though it'd probably be the most painful community-wise, would be to not use any other reserves and to go with the first option. And that's just first impression what I see. I like that this is being done now during work session to get some time to think about it, get some time for the community to reflect and think about this. Because honestly, I'm starting to feel that maybe just implementing an increase year after year might be much less painless than to wait until we need to. Because I think that's just a big ask for the community to ask for about 20% within a year or two time frame. And so I personally, right now where I'm sitting at, I feel that it'd be most appropriate to do maybe a year after year increase. And I don't know what your experience is with that, if other, I guess, agencies do that, or I guess, so I'm not sure of that, but that to me feels a little bit, that'd take less pressure. It'd be more stomachable, I guess, to be digestible, to be able to take in a number like that.
Yeah, those are excellent comments, Counselor, and that's a decision that you need to weigh. This is the first time that HES has looked at a 10-year construction work plan. You know, typically, we've looked at smaller, and when you're looking at smaller work plans, you can make adjustments, but at the end of the day, there's a portion of that that can be delayed maintenance. And the tough part about delayed maintenance is it always catches up with you, and it's usually more expensive when you delay it. So I showed earlier in the slide, over the 35 years with this construction work plan, we're rebuilding our system. We're taking an aged, dilapidated system and completely rebuilding it in 35 years. That's not aggressive. You know, that's keeping up with good practices and best management of a system to ensure that reliability. We all know how important reliability is with electricity. You know, you need it. You certainly know when it's out. I get a text from people all the time when they have an outage. And so, but the tough part is, you know, you guys have taken two approaches historically. You know, you've taken the approach that you've taken with the other city utilities and doing a once a year small adjustment. And you've taken a different approach with HES where it's, I'm only coming to you based on the actual need of where we're at. And that's what we did here. But when we bring in the cost of finishing this construction work plan, it's a big bubble. And it's a big bubble spread over 10 years, but it's 20% was a tough one to hear. It was difficult. And so how we approach that, I'll give you some options and a couple more things to consider, but how we approach that. And if you guys send me back with, hey, maybe 10 years isn't the right number, you know, but when you're delaying that maintenance, then, you know, we already know it's a 50-year-old system, the pieces we're working on. It's not going to last forever. And so how aggressive are you guys wanting me to be on this? And the overall impact and how you want to stage that impact. And I'll talk to you about timeframes here in a second, and that might help guide a little more.
Couple more questions. Counselor Drawn?
I would like to know, because we're talking about rate increases for our electricity. I think next year is also the year when we also increase the rates for the garbage, correct? Is it,
Just had some garbage. There's a potential for the recycling increase. but
that's what I was
we
thinking.
still don't know exactly because the state's kind of behind time frame on that, so we're still waiting to see when that happens.
So I'm curious, is it possible for us to also have a time where this kind of information can be shared with our communities so that they can be better informed to see the rates and to also kind of gauge where they may be? I know that the rate increase is not something we can avoid, but at least having the community part of the discussion, I think will help a lot.
And that's why we're here tonight, really, is to start that discussion, because we're not planning to bring rate action anytime in the near future. So, I mean, that's kind of
January.
starting that conversation.
Well, it's gonna be
2 months from now.
Yeah. Thank you, Counselor. That is excellent feedback. And that's part of this conversation is first, you guys give me direction of what else you would like to see, more details, or you want me to explore these options and bring it back and show you so you can make a more informed decision. This is a very high overview. You know, I think before I ask you to actually make a decision, I want to be a lot more precise in exactly how it affects each rate class and what we look at timing, how it affects our reserves, how it affects my upcoming budget, and then future budgets. And so we are bringing this to you tonight to give you an overall view of what this looks like. But education is always a priority in any rate adjustment.
Counselor Peterson?
So I know every year that my rent is going to go up and I can plan for that. And thanks to how the state has things, there's a cap on the percentage that it's allowed to go up. And again, I can plan for that. I can predict it. It's a known quantity. And so I think putting guidelines in place of, okay, here's how it's going to be set up. And then people can plan for that. Because getting oh, look, it's a mystery bill. Nobody likes that. And, especially like, oh, look, they did it to us again. We hear that. And at the same time, it's like, but we had 20 meetings. That's not the part that matters. Having that predictability when you're doing your budget and you're thinking, well, the holidays are coming. I'd like to know how much money I'm going to have.
Mhm.
So setting up guidelines on whatever happens and lining it up with, okay, this new thing is gonna have a rate increase, so let's not have it line up with this other rate increase and get it on the calendar. And then publicize the crud out of that calendar.
Yeah.
So people can say, okay, I know to expect that this rate increase is going to happen at this time. And then that way people can just have some sense of control over their finances.
Mhm.
Because when the first time they hear about it, maybe when they get their bill.
That is excellent feedback, and that's part of the conversation I was hoping to have tonight. Are you, as a council, interested in HES adopting more of the policies and procedures that we do with our other utilities, where whether I have a rate pressure or need in that individual year, I still collect a portion because I know at the end of 3 or 5 years, it's gonna add up to that. So incrementally building reserves to offset a large increase. And historically, we haven't. Historically, we've just looked at, we're only going to ask for the actual dollar we need. We don't want to build up large reserves, because when we build up large reserves, then it gets out of balance. And over this last couple of years, we've seen some changes with COVID. We reduced a lot of our construction work plan, so we had savings there. We also had some credits from Bonneville for residential exchange, a large public policy that gave us a rate credit that increased those reserves. And so we had extra cash on hand. We didn't want to build that up because that's customer money. That's why we spent down in this first year. But before we went further, we wanted to have that discussion. We certainly can do our rates and follow along what we do with our other utilities. It's just, how do you want us to collect for HES? HES doesn't serve every member of the city of Hermiston like our other utilities do. HES only serves 60% of the community. So you're making specific decisions just for that 60% versus when you're making decisions for the whole city. And that's the unique part about why we've kind of kept them a little bit separate, but also just in the rate making process of how we've done this. So a couple other things I know I want to make sure you guys have plenty of time to discuss and give me a little feedback. Things on the horizon for HES. So we are going to be going into our next 20-year contracts with Bonneville Power Administration. Those go into effect 2028. This isn't going to set the rates, but it's going to set the structure of how the rates will be created. I've been participating in work groups over the last 4 years on this. We're getting some concessions and making things a little more manageable, but it's really going to track similar to the way it's been done in the past. Another thing is the threat to the lower Snake River dams. This is something that we're seeing at a real heavy level over the past couple of years. There's a threat of removing lower Snake River dams, and what that would do to electric prices and reliability is significant. We advocate for it, we educate for it, but that is a wild card. Electrification of vehicles. I talked to you earlier about that with our construction work plan. We're already starting to make decisions that's being proactive in that area with our conductors. But if there's a large adoption of electric vehicles over the next 30 years, that's going to create some rate pressures too, because now we're going to have to go and look at all the transformers in all these residential sectors and replace that. And you saw what the cost of transformers are doing. So these are the kind of things that keep me up at night and things that you just need to be aware of. Continued increases in labor, material, and services. But one good piece of the puzzle is AWS. We're projecting in our 2026-2027 budget, we have a 1%. They're locating on existing HES service territory that you guys transferred previously. So that would be a revenue to HES on 1% of their electric sales. And really conservative, we're looking between 350 and 500,000 annually. That would help with that. That's still a couple of years away, but that's going to help mitigate some future rate pressures as well. And then you get into the 30s and you see the construction work plan or the big dollars decreasing and the debt paid off. So we have some tough years over the next 3 to 5, and then we'll see over the next 10. But if we can get to the finish line, have a great system and reduce cost pressures. But until that time, these are kind of the tough decisions. So what I'm asking for direction tonight is your thoughts on the construction work plan. Do you want me to go back and take another look at it, bring different options? And the second part is, when you look at these options, would you like me to explore one or two of these to bring back feedback and a recommendation? So just a reminder, option one is the full rate increase in June of 2025. If you were looking at that, we would want to get that decision made in the spring and start that education process now until next June. If we're looking at option 2 and 3, I would like a decision to be made before the end of the calendar year. So we'll have plenty of time to get out and educate and have those conversations. And then listed there is the amount of reserves and where that end reserve would be if you chose that option. So those are the directions I'm looking for you tonight. And I can answer anything else that you might have.
Who wants to go first? Everybody else asked all their questions? Councilor Brown?
Yeah, just some more clarifying questions. So you were saying about the work plan, and you were also talking about the debt payoff. I think it'd be really good news to the community knowing that the community owns HES, and I think that'd just be a really a good point whether we go option 1, 2, or 3, knowing that it's going to be paid off. I think that's something important to signal to the community. And so I guess just with the work plan, as soon as that work plan, I guess there is always more work to be had in the future, but that work plan what does that get us to, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah, it really gets us to a paid for, well operating, reliable system that we don't have big expenditures and capital outlay. It transitions more into a maintenance mode. Now, at the same time, we're restarting that 30 to 40-year work cycle, and we want to be strategic of how we implement the next construction work plan so we can design a system to replace over the next 40 years after 2036. I don't know if I'll be here, but if I am, I'd be happy to implement that. But that's kind of the idea is this gets us fully through the HES system that we bought. That was, an age system. We really bought a system from Pacific Core that they had let sit for a while. And over 35 years, this gets us through that full system. So.
I certainly think that's something to celebrate at the end of all this, whatever option we end up going with. But I mean, just I guess maybe to stick the point a little bit home, that 20% divided into 5 years, because you've said every 5 years, that's when we come and do these adjustments. It'd be about 3-4%, right? And I think that'd be a little bit more stomachable, 4% every year, than the 20% that we have to do now, or whatever other option that we go with. And so right now I'm a little bit more in favor for that. I don't want to deplete any of the reserves that we have. I think that's just the fiscally responsible thing to do, but it's also a very painful thing to do. I would love to hear my fellow colleagues, I guess, their thoughts, their opinions on this, and I look forward to continuing this discussion.
Yeah, thank you. And just one point on that. So if we did decide, if council, you gave me direction to start following along with the same way we set rates with the other utilities with the annual increase, that would have to go into effect after this is implemented. We would have to get there first before we could start those incremental. Mark, what's your rate adjustment based on annually?
We go off the engineer construction cost index.
Yeah. So then after this would be implemented, we could look at going and getting on that annual cycle.
I have several questions, and then I want to make a comment after you answer those questions. Do we know what the UEC rate increase is going to be to us as far as their service of is that been part of your rate adjustment plan?
Yeah, so we incorporated it. They take the previous 5 years and do an average of the consumer price index. One of the numbers of it, yes, that has been
Part of your
incorporated.
plan. Okay. And then how does UEC, they're a partner with us on that. And I would imagine that you ask their support and ask for their opinion and guidance as far as how we're managing and running our utility and the shape of the system. And what is their opinion about our system, where it's at, and what this does to make it more reliable, more sustainable, all those sort of things for the future.
Yeah, excellent question, Mr. Mayor. So I work side by side with their engineering department in the development of this construction work plan. They're the ones on the floor, on the ground, climbing the poles, doing the work, doing the maintenance, understanding where the trouble areas are at. You can look at a map and show outages, but the guys on the crew have seen and been on top of all these poles and seen the areas, and they provide recommendations back to us saying, you really need to look at this area, you need to look at that area. So we work in tandem with it on the construction work plan. We actually use the same contractor that they use to design their construction work plan. And we've used them for the last 8 years. UEC has used them for a little longer than that. And so we have a great working relationship. And it was their feedback that said, this is getting your system in tip-top shape, essentially. This is the last major hurdle that you have in the rebuild of your HES system.
And so they would feel pretty comfortable with this work plan moving forward if we implemented it. Okay.
Yes.
The one thing we don't do well as governance, as a city, is tell our story. And, having the lowest electrical rate in the region, probably one of the lowest rates in the state. I bet the general person doesn't understand that. They just look at their electric bill every month and they say, oh, okay. And then when you talk about a 20% increase, it still doesn't catch you up with what Portland Metro, PGE and PPNL are putting in place. When I look at their rate class or their rate increases over the last 3 years, it's 50+%. So significant. I mean, they're talking 19s on 19s on 19s every year. Of course, they're investor-owned utilities, and they have a stock board that they've got to appease, whereas we're just a nonprofit. But we don't tell that story, and I don't think the average citizen understands that. So we need to do a better job of that, number one. But the concern I have is in replacing something that functions. Okay, it's working, and so we're going to spend a lot of money to replace something that's working. You can estimate something's going to wear out. When we on the water side, we went through and we piped everything, right? We went through and cameraed everything. We saw holes in the pipes. It's failed. These lines are still transmitting. They haven't failed, right? Do you wait to failure and then replace? Does that make it more sense? So I have questions about that. I also have questions about, in 2036, which is, 11, 12 years from now, debt's paid off. We now have an extra 9% of revenue that we could spend on, expenses, right? Because our debt payment's 9%. Could we look at spreading this out and pushing it longer so that when our debt's paid off, we now have more revenue that we could pay off on our construction work plan? So I have lots of questions about where we're going with this. The other concern I have is technology is changing so rapidly. 10 years from now, I mean, we may have some new fiber that we want to transmit across, and copper is no longer even considered, and maybe cheaper. And so I think maybe 10 years is too long of a plan. So I'd feel probably more comfortable on a 5-year plan. Not a complete replacement, but what's, the next 5 years look like? So lots of different questions I'd like to see us answer before I'd feel more comfortable. And then I guess the last thing I'd make a comment on is the rate adjustment. Spreading it out over time, I think, makes a lot of sense for the consumer. It allows, if you're a senior on fixed income Social Security, it allows the Social Security kind of roll up. Usually they get an increase every year or two. So it's not hitting them all at one time. Most of us are in employment. We often get raises, annually or every couple of years as well. That allows people to have more money in their pocket to spend for increased rate versus a one-time shot too. So I guess I'd be in favor of spreading the rate out over a longer period of time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just so I can capture, because I'm taking these notes
Yep.
back. What would a 5-year plan look like? Tell our story. Is there any new technology coming along that we need to be aware of before we make a long-term commitment in this? And maybe some expertise to answer some more in the weeds questions if
I
you,
guess
that,
the
that
question
helpful?
about, if the system's working, why do we need
Oh,
to
okay,
replace
right.
it, you know?
Yep.
And could we wait till 2036 when our debt's paid off and then start paying on our construction work plan every year?
Yeah. Yeah, I can
Interest rates-
answer that one because that's the one we get a lot. The biggest part of that question is anytime you defer maintenance and you have an outage, you're paying double to fix the same problem, and a lot of times you're doing it at night or during a storm.
Mhm.
And so you have longer duration of outages. And if you defer that maintenance, you're creating a bubble in your long-term system. So the next time you come through to replace this, you're either replacing it too early because you're in that same schedule. And so now this is on a 35-year schedule versus a 40-year schedule. So you're losing time on one end or the other. Really, it comes down to reliability and staying on top and being proactive with your system. I understand that part of it, but we're also, in this construction work plan, we're already dealing with 50+ years. Like, it's exceeded the hopeful life of the system. We're past the hopeful life. Now we're dealing with the, let's be proactive and get this done. But I can also bring back a little more information on that. I think they're all great questions.
Yeah, and I would, our reliability's been pretty impressive. And so I'm not sensing there's some urgency in our community. It's like, hey, our system's failing. We need to do better investment. You do see that in some communities where they're constantly in outages. We rarely have outages recently. So I guess I'd feel more urgent about it if I felt like the system was failing more often. Now, I'm not encouraging you to go out there and have more failures in the system. I'm happy about that reliability, but I guess the urgency isn't there as much. Counselor Peterson?
So I may be mixing my systems here, but in regards to talking about systems that have already like wires that have been going longer than you would expect. So in biology, they do nerve conduction studies. Is there an electrical system version of this to go throughout and test the lines? Because said like we've looked at pipes and seen the holes. Are there ways of going through and testing some of the lines? They're like, all right, so this one's, and to keep talking about 50-year-olds and stuff. I'm 46, dude. Stop. Um, nothing wrong with turning 50. But if there's a way of actually going through and doing the electrical version of a nerve conduction study to figure out where might the problem ones be, and then, hey, we're gonna go through and knock these out real fast,
Mhm.
and then not do the other ones.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be kind of a proactive approach that is still not fixing anything that isn't broke.
Mhm. Excellent feedback, and also to you, Mr. Mayor, those comments. Our reliability is excellent. We've done an excellent job in our tree trimming, and we've done an excellent job over the last 10 years of being proactive and fixing the real problem areas. We've incrementally worked through those to avoid those issues, and that's also what we need to do over the next 10 years to keep our reliability where it's at. Regarding your question, Counselor, about is there a way to do testing on the system to look for weak points and breakage? We actually went through and did a full system inventory, and I believe it was 18 or 19, and we actually got the years and all the system and everything. So we did that full inventory, so we were able to use that information to design this. Plus, we take in outage history and where we're seeing a lot of repairs and fixes, and we incorporate. As far as hooking something from one end to the other to test it, there may be something, but that'd be pretty labor intensive, and I think it would be expensive versus our ability to use the history of our system and history of other systems and age of equipment and stuff like that. But I can ask that question. I think it's a good one.
All right, we are at 7:00, so you're coming back. We're gonna get another update on this, Mr. Smith? What's the plan with this?
It would be helpful if you said eliminate one of the three concepts and have me bring back two.
Okay, because we can't take any action in work session, so you can say consensus wise. Yeah, I told you my my
Okay.
thoughts.
I just assumed get rid of option one myself.
Get rid of it.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
had some positive support for one.
Mainly just because of the depletion of the reserves and just financially, it looks, for me, like in the city's financial standing would be one of the better ones. So I want to consider it. Yes.
One. Okay, you're against one. Okay, you can pull one out. That seems like the consensus.
Okay, I will work on the two options and,
Okay.
and come back. Thank you so much for your time. I always
Thank you,
appreciate
Nate.
the
Appreciate it.
questions
Yep.
and the discussion.
We're going to take a brief recess, like a minute or two, and then we will back, let's say 7:05. With the declaration of a quorum, we're going to excuse Councilors McCarthy, Councilor Hardin, and Councilor Linton this evening. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, if you're just now joining us, we had a work session prior to our regular city council meeting to have a conversation about Hermiston Energy Services and our electric utility and what the future looks like of that. Any changes to the agenda this evening?
No.
Schmidt? Okay. It's good to see you all. There was so few of you at last meeting that we couldn't take action. So it's good to see we have at least a quorum this evening. First on our agenda this evening is a presentation by Umatilla County Fire District Number 1, their annual report. Welcome, Chief Stanton.
Good evening. How's everybody tonight?
Good. I don't think your mic's on.
Sam?
Make sure the red button. Yeah,
Is it red?
There we go. How's that sound?
there it is. Yeah.
Interesting presentation. I didn't realize until I bought my house and had it built in Desert Sky subdivision. And I'm flanked by 2 UEC employees, but Jake Royer on my north is a HES customer and me and Chris McMahon are UEC customers. And I was like, so that's where I was like, what? No, I'm on HE. So I didn't realize that, but it's definitely strange how that would work, it seems like, but interesting. So yeah, thank you for allowing me to come tonight for a few minutes and talk about kind of where we're at and some exciting stuff we have going on. I also hopefully gave you some copies of our annual report in there. If you want to look through that, please do so. And thankful to be here. Just a quick little overview for folks. You know, we're the largest, busiest fire department in all of Eastern Oregon. You have to travel to Central Oregon or to the Valley to find someone who's bigger and busier than we are. We protect darn near $5 billion in assets, which is almost half the county's assets. And that's from everything from family homes to data centers to everything in between. We have about, our fire rescue service area is 230 square miles. That includes some of the area, which is the CDA lands and the OMD lands to get to that total amount. We run about 1,000 fire rescue calls a year. We do that with a combination of what we call volunteers and paid staff. We call them paid on call. They're not true volunteers. They actually get a stipend of some money. Basically with the IRS, we had to go to a minimum wage or higher. And we have about 85 people, give or take, depending on the number of POCs or volunteers we have at the time. We do that from 5 stations. We are also the busiest ambulance service in Eastern Oregon, covering 620 square miles. That's all of West County. That gets us to halfway to Pendleton. We have a little bit of area down there in Morrow County towards Lexington that we help out with. That was like a gentleman's agreement about 25 years plus ago, because I've tried to find any documentation on that and I cannot find anything. So we're actually going to work with Boardman Fire and Morrow County Health District to put something in writing. We average 1 call in that Morrow County area a year is also, you know, it's not a big deal, but I think we get there quicker than those other folks can at times. So we serve about 48,000. That includes everybody from the prison to Echo in all the rural areas too within that area. About 5,500 calls a year. And that's the number one thing we do. Obviously, it's about 85 to 90% of what we do of our call volumes. And that rises to a lot of reasons. Increased traffic, our motor vehicle accidents are what really increasing some of the most for single calls. And then just the aging of our populations too is part of that too. We do that with 6 advanced life support ambulances or ALS. And we also have a state recognized community paramedic program. It was also nationally recognized by the International Association of Fire Chiefs a couple years ago when the department was. And so that's about 17 plus calls per shift in a 24-hour time frame. So pretty busy. And I take my hat off to those men and women that are doing that. I did that back in the 90s and early 2000s, but we weren't near as busy. So they keep busy nowadays. We also have the hazard materials team. We're the one for Eastern Oregon. You have to go to Ontario or you have to go to Gresham, Portland to get to the next teams. We have 2 response vehicles that's owned by the state. We have a contract with the state fire marshal's office. We do about 12 calls a year, give or take. That could be something simple like some white powder to a diesel spill to a train derailment and kind of everything in between. We've been on aircraft wrecks, both that sank at the harbor in Arlington to crawling underneath the school in Mount Vernon. So just a little bit of everything there. Obviously a big area, over 15,000 square miles, obviously Umatilla, Morrow, Gillum, and Wheeler, and Union and Wallowa counties, and then the northern half of Grant County. So the goal is to be at those calls within 2.5 hours. Probably not going to make it to Mount Vernon or Enterprise in 2.5 hours in January, but it's always a goal. So, but we're proud of that team, 18 members. is what's on that team, and I know we're going to recruit for, I think we have 4 openings right now. It's a lot of extra stuff to know. You do about a month training down in the valley, plus specialized training at OSU for radiological emergencies, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Chief, can I ask a question? on
yes,
that?
sir.
So those 18 members aren't full-time hazmat. They do other stuff.
Oh, yeah. So out of that, we have 1 member who's a part-timer, and that's Mike Bozeman. He works for DPSST as a regional trainer coordinator. And he actually, his office is out at Station 25 by Mike Hammond's place. And then he's been a part-timer volunteer for us back when we were just the Hermiston Fire Department from like 1992, when he was a firefighter out at the depot as a federal firefighter. So the rest of them are our career staff. They're paramedic firefighters or lieutenants, they're BCs, stuff like that. So the rest of them are paid staff. Yeah. So they have to know all the other stuff plus that. So, yeah. Financial overview, 23-24 budget. We came in about 3% under budget. I could just see coming out of that COVID stuff, it was just, we wanted to be conservative, and that's the way the board of directors was kind of leaning towards too. So we really tightened it up, and really it was mostly in materials and services. Personnel services was up a little bit just because of the amount of overtime we have to pay for different reasons, but we were able to tighten our belts pretty good in materials and services. Going into this year, we were pretty good shape, had some extra money, and we're going to look at hiring 1 additional paramedic. Right now we have 8 of those EMS only folks. And so we wanted to go to a 9th one, which we're going to try to do this spring if we can find a paramedic. People in the pipeline, I don't know if other places, and maybe Jace could elaborate on police, but it's hard to find firefighter medics nowadays. The pipeline's just been kind of empty now since COVID. What that does is it's hard to get people to the paramedic level. So we got to find a way to send our folks to school. By getting this, we call it a rover position. It allows this person to rove into a spot so we can send one of our EMTs away to school. And that's about a 9-month commitment plus to go to the didactic portion in the accelerated program like they have in McCook, Nebraska, do your hospital clinical time, ride time on ambulance, and then get certified at least 9 months. So that's one of the big reasons we want this. Plus, right now, when they take vacation, we got to backfill with overtime. So this position also helps with that to bounce into when they take a vacation. With Nick Oatley's movement to the state of Kentucky, we got his replacement hired, a nice young lady named Timber Hunt out of Tri-Cities. Has a lot of work she did with Humane Society, pretty impressive young lady, and the stuff she was able to do with that organization. And she's in background. We're hoping to get her on in the next couple weeks because our social media presence has taken a nosedive since Nick left. I try, but I am not the person to keep that up. So we're excited about getting Timber on board. Bond expenditures, we're sitting about 84% expenditures right now, and that's rough estimates right now. The station renovations is about 7 million to date. We spent about 4.5 million on equipment. That's engines, a new ladder truck, staff rigs, ambulances, some wildland vehicles. So, and then equipment was personal protective equipment, rescue tools, and some the new brand new AEDs we have, the cardiac monitors, the fancy new ones we got with that program. So kind of across the board there with a lot of that stuff we spend our money at. So obviously, yeah, it seems like it goes really fast nowadays, as you kind of know that too. A couple of things we'll just look about September. Chief Corey Gorms, our EMS division chief, and he does a really great job working with our numbers. And today everything has to be so data driven. And so just a couple look, there's kind of a breakdown of September, 532 calls for service. Obviously you can see the bulk is the rescue and EMS with 84%. And then it's broken down, we had 4 hazardous condition calls, which is somewhat of a hazard call, public service, 15 calls, good intent, false alarms, fires. Fires obviously go down, of course, once we get out of summer season, which is our biggest for fire calls. This is probably one of the most interesting graphs we have. And if you look in page 10 on your annual report, it talks about how often we have overlapping calls. And I didn't know that until we finally got some new software called Continuum, and it hot maps where our calls are, and it talks about some of this stuff. And if you look here, 71% of the time, that means almost 18 hours out of a 24-hour shift, we have overlapping calls. And if you look in there, I believe it's about, we have 4 overlapping about 8% of the time. We have 2 calls out more often than just a single ambulance call out. That just kind of goes to show how busy we are in the area. The bulk of the calls, between 75 and 80%, are right here in the city limits of Hermiston. Obviously the west side where we have lots of elderly care facility type stuff. That's the bulk of where our calls are, of course. And, but it's interesting, but that gets us to a point where 3-4 ambulances out, we're kind of tapped out. We don't have much folks and we're starting to recall people back into stations and stuff on overtime just because we're kind of out of bodies. But it's an interesting graph. As you can see on the 22nd, I believe, they ran 22 calls in that shift and they had every time was an overlapping call. So pretty interesting. Obviously, the busier you get, more chance for overlapping calls you're going to find. Here's another quick little thing about the age of patients we saw in September. Obviously, it kind of goes up as the age. I always thought it was kind of cool, especially when I was on the ambulance. When you get a person that's over 100, we ran on 2 patients who were actually over 100 years old. So that's a pretty big milestone, I think, in a person's life when you reach that. And it's pretty cool. I can remember when I was on them, isn't fun to be on those patients just because they'd seen so much change, you know, from the covered wagon to a jet maybe or something. So just some data that we have nowadays we can really retrieve good. Capital construction, as everybody knows, you know, we got the big safety center project has started and we're doing stuff. For us, it's a chess game now and not checkers. We're trying to get 23 done. It should be done here in the next 3 weeks or so. That'll be good. We can get people housed back in there so we can get out of main station downtown so they can start working on our side too, as well as the police side. The hospital's been a great partner. They're gonna let us have one of their houses right there where the back fence goes into the hospital property. And we're gonna put up a metal temporary building there to house an ambulance, and our Suburban is like a quick response vehicle, and our BCO Parky's vehicle in the garage actually. So we'll have 4 people there. Because with the bulk of our calls in town, we just could not put our substations full of people without something here because it's right here. So, and plus it's on the west side. So having that ambulance, ALS with another provider and that Suburban to get to that call or that BC, now we can get there, start care while we get another ambulance coming to town. So again, we're hoping that their 10-month, 300-day timeline, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. So I'm going to guess it's at least a year. For the admin staff, Blue Mountain Community College, they call it the POF building, which is a precision irrigation facility. And we're going to be in there, myself, my 2 deputy chiefs and the 2 gals in the front office is where we're going to kind of hang out up there. Blue Mountain's been a great partner for us. And then UEC with the building, UES, that's the building on 10th and Elm that they acquired. We're going to put some stuff in there that'll be winterized, and like the big new tower ladder will be in service. We just have to go get it. Obviously they'll have people there Monday through Thursday, but trying to find places for everything's been obviously challenging, but I think we have a plan now, and hopefully by December 1st, it'll completely be moved and done and we'll be off and running with the new plan and still serving the communities that we do real good, I hope. Community risk assessment and plan. We've never done this really here before. We've done some strategic planning in-house, but we've never had an actual community risk assessment and standard cover completed. And so we were able to find money to hire AP Triton, a well-known national company with lots of local grown talent here in Oregon and Washington, with specific content experts and GIS professionals to come in and help us really identify our top hazards, where our calls are, and telling us what we do well and what we don't do well and where we should be in finances and staffing and all that. And then once that's done, we'll roll into a new strategic plan. And as you talked about, things are so dynamic with economies today and fluctuating that, really a 3-year plan. I'm hoping to get a 5-year plan out of it, but knowing things can change so much in 5 years with the speed of everything we live in today. So 3 to 5 year plan, we're hoping to get us for some action items to how we can continue to grow and serve our communities better and better. Grants, we're hiring, by the way. One of the things we did get in Oregon, the Bureau of Labor and Industries created an apprenticeship program. That's for folks would not maybe consider fire service as a career. Veterans, females, people of color, whatever, and those would never think that maybe this would be something they'd want to do. And we were one of 3 positions or 3 places in Oregon this year to get it. Corvallis and Coos Bay were the other 2. And we got 5 positions, and we're kind of really excited about that because I don't think the fire service has hired people basically off the street for probably about 35 or 40 years. So this is awesome to get an opportunity to hire those folks that think, hey, I didn't know, but maybe this is for me now. We got 5 positions fully funded for 2 years to get folks up to a firefighter certified level and an EMT. And we're excited about that. And we'll hopefully start receiving taking applications by late spring, early summer, and we'll have a fall academy. So really excited about how that's gonna roll out, and just excited about already talking to people about coming and looking at that. The second big thing is we just got a SAFER grant, and some of you may have heard about this. I talked to it at the commissioners meeting and at Rotary, but we got a big FEMA grant. I went to the board of directors here about a year ago, and we were talking about our future and how we're understaffed. We got to keep the volume of call volume. And I said, here's the deal. Can we go for this federal grant? It's a 3-year paid by the feds and to open up another station. And lo and behold, we actually got that grant. We're one of 2 places in Oregon. And they don't give out many, but it's about a $7 million grant to actually open up another station. That's pretty awesome. We're going to actually hire 17 because we have one of our paramedic firefighters is retiring in June. So we're going to hire 17. So another great opportunity for young men and women that are EMTs or paramedics and firefighters that want to come work here. And we're just really happy about it. Our goal is to meet the National Staffing Deployment Standard, which is what we've adopted is 80% of the time. We only met that 14% of the time last year, mostly because of the medical calls that come in during or right before a fire call for structure fire. So this will really help us get towards that goal. Reduce delays in medical responses too. Like I said, you can look in the book. When we get down that 4 or 5 overlapping calls, we're getting delays, or if we're already on a fire, delays of getting folks out to that medical call. So that's going to be huge for us. We're really excited about that. And then other grants we're working for is more PPE. We got the public education trailer from Gillum County. They got on a grant. They gave it to us to roll out better public education, like at the fair or events that we can have around the communities. Actually, it'll be available to all 3 counties in the area fire defense board, which is Umatilla, Morrow, and Gillum. And I've already got a small grant from AWS to help start that. And I met with the Roundhouse Foundation representative last Sunday. They're very excited about it. I would be surprised we don't get a little money out of them to really get it. It needs rewrapped and updated. Stuff in for AEDs, UTV, VHF radios. Right now, all our partners, the state and federal partners all use VHF. Well, we're all on our 700. So a little problem there. So we're working on, and I've thrown out a regional opportunity too. That's maybe a year down the road, but we're going to look at some VHF radio grants too as well. So we're living on grants, and we're excited about getting after grants because anytime you can find money from somewhere else, that's a good thing. That's somewhere along the line that we hope to save that our local taxpayers money by that. So recognition, one thing we did get, I'm proud of that Special Districts Association of Oregon Program Award. We're going to get awarded that this February at their annual conference for special districts with 26 plus employees for our health and wellness program. There's about 1,000 special districts in the state of Oregon. And for that 26 or plus employees, we did that. Just, it's a combination of our chaplaincy program, EAP, but bringing on CCS as a provider for us and us alone. We pay for that with our peer support team, with the stuff that Jessica Markham's doing, just so many, and the stuff we're doing, nutritionalists brought in from the hospital at times, and we're doing resiliency classes from anybody that comes through the door. Just a really good thing. I'm just happy that the stuff that like Chief Gorham, Chief Kearns, and our union folks, they've done, they've put in the work in to get this done. So it's a reflection of everybody over there that really does that. So we're proud of that recognition. We'll get that in February. And that's kind of it. And there's open for any questions.
Chief, we've talked a little bit about public safety and, working and coordinating with the police force. Jason Chief Hermiston is keeping track of the transient homelessness statistics. Have you guys started looking at percentages of your calls and how many are you going out on?
Yeah, we a lot of those are crossovers with our fentanyl problems too, with overdoses. It's somewhere between 10 and 15% of our calls have to do with probably more towards the 15% at least with homelessness and fentanyl problems for sure. And that's the good thing is, and Chief Gorham, I didn't think about getting those hard numbers, but those, we're definitely seeing those increase too.
And so that's a number you're starting to keep a little bit more track
Yep,
of.
we are. And we're seeing more overdoses every year too. So
Unfortunately. Yeah, I
yes,
think
unfortunately.
Chief Hermiston, you're 20, 21, 25%.
Yeah, it definitely there.
Other questions?
I think we had to let him breathe.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your award too.
Yep.
That's exciting. And
But
hopefully you can find some more young men and women to come join your force. Looks like there's a lot of job opportunities.
It
there.
is. It's,
That's-
it's different since COVID, you
It's
know.
good to be able to hire some
So,
folks and put them
yeah,
to work
it
here
is.
in your, so,
Very
thanks
nice.
for the
All right.
report tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you,
Chief.
everybody.
All right, now we're at our first opportunity for citizen input. For those folks that would like to speak to the council about non-agenda items, so something that's not on our current agenda, please come up to the microphone up front, introduce yourself by name and address, limit your comments to less than 5 minutes and direct them to me. All right, seeing none, we're gonna move on to the consent agenda. Items A through J, do we need to pull any of those? Yes, ma'am?
I'm gonna say it because otherwise Counselor Primer would have, and that's, I'd like to pull, H.
H, okay. We're gonna move
H
H.
to it.
How about any others? Okay. Any public comment on consent agenda items A through J except H? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Counselor Primer, second by Counselor Barone, that we approve consent agenda items A through J except H. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. H, Counselor.
I just wanted to call attention to the fact that the November 11th meeting is getting moved because that is a holiday. And so it will be moved to the Tuesday.
In addition to that, I think there's going to be a significant portion of us going to NLC that day, or at least in transit.
Well, I was gonna bring it up later, but if there's anybody else who knows they won't be available that day, the 12th, please let us know, but we've operated on a skeleton crew in the past. We hope we can do that again.
Yeah, okay.
But we will need someone, if both of you are gonna be gone, we will need someone to lead the meeting.
And Counselor Harden, who usually steps in as third batter up, so.
Yeah.
Make it
He
link.
did say, he called this morning and said he was planning to be here that day, so.
He will be, okay. He's
I
not
don't
leaving
think
till
Not
Wednesday.
going to NLC.
What's that?
I don't think he's going.
He's not going to.
Oh, he's not going at all?
No.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I will be gone.
I will be gone.
Okay,
I will be gone.
and Maria will be gone. Okay.
So if things come up, let us know as soon as you know, so that we may, I mean, if we have enough to do business. So, or we make them call in when they're really, really tired.
Be on an airplane, I think.
No, I won't be. The day before.
Okay,
So, yeah, I'd say, the whole deal on that one, like, Counselor Peterson said, is just, bringing attention that the reason that we're moving that meeting is because it's on a holiday. So. I would move that we accept that.
okay, it's been moved by,
Second.
moved by Counselor Primer, seconded by Counselor Peterson, that we accept the proposed change in council date from November 11th to November 12th. Any public comment? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Now, we're going to move on to public hearing, exemption from public contract and competitive bidding requirement, design, build, service, signage, various locations. See resolution number 2341. Do we have any conflicts of interest on the council? Okay, seeing none. Can I get the hearing guidelines presented by city staff? Mr. Smith?
The city council is holding a public hearing for exemption from public contracting competitive bidding requirements, design, build services, signage, various locations. The city council will take public testimony on this issue and make a decision at this meeting. The hearing process will begin with a staff report followed by public testimony. The council requests that all people wishing to testify give their name and mailing address before testifying. People wishing to testify should limit testimony to not more than 5 minutes unless a longer period is provided by the city council. Written testimony will also be accepted. After everyone wishing to testify has had an opportunity to speak, the city council will close the public hearing and enter deliberations. Once the public hearing is closed, no further testimony will be received. Mr. Mayor.
We'll now open the hearing. City staff will present its report.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so this is, we've been doing this a little bit more regularly lately, but the state law allows a number of different procurement methods for construction projects. The one that we're proposing tonight is a design build. It's where the public agency hires a contractor, and then the contractor is responsible for the design as well as the construction of the project. And for this project, we're looking at reconstructing, the initial project is reconstructing the welcome sign on the south end of town that was hit by a vehicle probably more than a year ago. And just the signage is a good way to test this method out. It's not something we've done this specific method a lot, just because they typically have design staff internal to a sign company that would be able to take care of the design piece. That's what we're asking the council to consider tonight. There's really, at this point, we don't know what a fiscal impact would be on this decision, but it can lead to savings based on some efficiency among the partners in the project.
Okay, we'll now open it up to public testimony. People wishing to speak are asked to state their name and mailing address. Limit your testimony to 5 minutes. We're going to start with proponents. People in favor? Seeing none. Any neutral parties? Seeing none. Any opponents? Okay, hearing's closed. City staff will now present its findings of fact.
Findings of fact they begin on, let's see, page 52 of your packet, and just kind of lays out the reasoning behind that I explained earlier, the potential for savings and efficiency in constructing the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any council discussion? All right, I'm not seeing any. Can I get a motion to approve the findings of fact?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Primer, seconded by Councilor Myers, that we approve the findings of fact. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. We'll bring this back as a resolution for 2341, which is our next action. All right, resolution 2341, authorize alternative procurement method, design build for signs. Mr. Smith?
I have nothing additional to add.
All
but
right,
happy to answer a question if it came up.
okay. Any other questions from the council on resolution 2341? Any public comment? Can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2341 and lay it upon the record?
So moved.
Second.
And moved by Councilor Drawn, seconded by Councilor Primer, that we adopt resolution 2341 and lay it upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Resolution number 2342, authorizing a temporary easement across city property to ODOT. Mr. Smith?
Yes, so you've had a couple of presentations related to the ramp project that ODOT's conducting along Highway 207 and some on 395. This is in relation to a ramp they'll be adding at Highway 207 in West Joseph. They need a temporary easement on our property to conduct the construction. It's not a permanent easement, it's just lay down and space to do the work. And so they have proposed an easement. We're recommending the council approve the easement.
All right. Is $750 a typical fee?
We don't, I mean, this is probably the first time we've had an actual easement they're going to pay us for.
Okay.
So we're pretty happy that they offered anyway.
They're paying us? Well,
Right.
Yes, yes.
let's not argue with that. Let's
just
take the, let's
Want to
take the
make sure
money.
it's fair. And it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it's usually for a temporary easement, construction easement, you don't pay like you would, like you're buying the property because you're just using it for a short amount of time.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the council? Okay, any public comment? Can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2342 and laid upon the record?
So moved.
Second.
Then moved by Counselor Drawn, seconded by Counselor Myers, that we adopt resolution 2342 and laid upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Resolution 2343, approval of guaranteed maximum price amendments on civic projects. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so this is kind of taking a next step on another alternative procurement method that we've been using, the construction manager general contractor. And that was authorized with resolution 2285 on the Harkenrider IT and the library, as well as then a little later on the ARC project. And so the CB Construction is our general contractor. We have a design partner of Hacker Architects, and they are they have gone through their process. We go through a full design, and then that general contractor goes through, gets bids from subs, and then puts together this what they call a guaranteed maximum price. And so we have a number for the ARC Phase 2 of $363,922.54, and then on the library, $3,541,202.13. Both of those numbers fall within the budgets that we've been utilizing, including the design costs that go with the project. And so I'm recommending that we approve these GMPs for those two projects.
I think I just heard you say that correctly, but all of these projects are within the budgeting parameters we've already approved.
That's correct. They're within the amounts that were approved in the annual budget, plus the budgets that I put forward for each individual project as we talked about them.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions from the council? Okay, any public comment? Can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2343 and laid upon the record? So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor Primer, seconded by Counselor Drawn, that we adopt resolution 2343 and laid upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Resolution number 2344, authorizing a building plan review inspection service agreement with the city of Umatilla. Mr. Smith?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for a number of years, we've been operating on an agreement that was approved by the council previously with the city of Umatilla for building plan review and inspection services. At that point, it was only one direction because they, at that point, didn't have a building department. They needed some assistance as they hired staff and kind of got up to speed. Now it's at the point where and we started it at a lower price, trying to help them be helpful, getting them started. Now this proposed agreement brings that up to more of what a market would be, market price, 75% of the plan review costs, and then $1 an hourly rate for the actual inspection services. And the other big change is now it's both directions. So if we needed services from the city of Umatilla, we recently had our electrical inspector take a position with the city of LeGrand. So we have the potential to potentially need more services from our side than we had in the past. So this makes it so we could go either direction. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any council questions?
No, he answered my question.
Okay. Any public comment? Can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2344 and laid upon the record?
So moved.
Second. Been moved by Counselor Meyer, seconded by Counselor Primer, that we adopt resolution 2344 and lay it upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Acceptance of Bureau of Justice National Community Court Grant Award. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so now you can stop hearing me talk. It seems like this meeting and my items. We'll ask our court administrator to walk us through this grant.
Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, I'm really excited to be able to present this to you.
Your mic on.
Yes. Do you want me to be, is that better?
That's better.
Okay.
Yep.
I feel like I'm loud anyways, but.
You are, but I mean, it needs to be recorded and there's people online, so.
Yells at us if we don't do it.
There we go. So a little bit of background about why we're discussing this now. Back in 2023, when we discussed the city council goals, one of them under safe and healthy communities was to develop a plan or gather data and explore partnerships for a community court program. Fast forward to 2024, some of the things that have happened both in the court and in the community is, of course, we resumed adjudication of the A misdemeanors earlier this year. We now have a full-time city prosecutor. HPD, of course, is fully staffed with their increased numbers of officers, so we're getting more cases directed to our courts. We have a dedicated CCS peer mentor as of January of this year who attends all of our court sessions. Of course, Stepping Stones Alliance has their Project Path program that opened up, as well as COPE's opened a peer center in Hermiston. So in about May, June of this year, I felt like I was seeing a trend in the cases that we were receiving. I started digging into the data to see if I was right or not. So one of the things I felt we were seeing is an increase cases for transients or those that are unhoused, as well as we were having a lot of failed to appear warrants that were being issued. They would get cited and released. They wouldn't show up. We would do another warrant. And it was just kind of this rinse and repeat. And I felt like it was an unusual number of warrants for our court. So I started to dig kind of into the data to kind of see what was going on. So from June 2022 through May of 2024, so looking at 2 years, what I found was 32% of the offenders in Hermiston Municipal Court were known to be unhoused. So that's either from information that the police department gave us or from information that they provided when they came into court. On top of that, 56% of the misdemeanors that have been misdemeanor offenses that were cited by HPD were committed by this 32% of our unhoused population. Maybe. There we go. Out of that, kind of this confirmed what I was seeing, 81% of the warrants that we've issued were for this unhoused population. So it kind of told me what we're doing isn't working. If we're kind of doing the same thing over and over, we need to take a different approach. A lot of these people that are not only homeless, but they're dealing with substance use or mental health issues. They're continuing to reoffend and struggling with appearing at their court hearings. If you don't know where you're sleeping at night, if you don't know necessarily what your next meal is coming from, you don't necessarily have a cell phone, you don't know what day of the week it is, and you don't know how many days it's been since the officer told you to show up to court. Because of this, they're getting more charges of failure to appear, they're getting more warrants. It's a vicious cycle that they just can't get out of. So we at the Hermiston Municipal Court identified we needed to make some changes, and we believe that the community court model will work effectively in assisting these individuals to break the cycle of recidivism and help them find stability in their housing situation and to better themselves mentally and physically. You may have seen a little of this in City Manager Smith's memo from a couple weeks ago. So a little bit about community court. It started back in 1993 in New York City. What had happened is previous to 1960s, 1970s, neighborhood courts or local courts were really common. And of course, to save money, they thought, oh, let's centralize and kind of come up with the district courts. So they centralized to save money, but they were creating a backlog of cases because now there are more cases in fewer courts. And judges and attorneys were feeling the pressure to just kind of get through those courts. So people were maybe taking plea deals, not really getting sentenced. So there was really no accountability. In the early 1990s, a couple researchers and those involved in the justice system said, this isn't working, what can we do? And they kind of went back to what they called a neighborhood court or a community court. So not only are you getting the justice kind of impact back into those neighborhoods or communities where it's occurring, you're also reducing the time from the fence to being held accountable because you're keeping it more localized. So the other aspect of community court is to focus on resolving the underlying issue and giving back to the community through community service or community enhancement versus just the traditional punishment of go serve 3 days in jail, be done and move on. So community court principles, these are guided by the Center for Court Innovation. They are just they're a federal nonprofit or a large nationally nonprofit that kind of oversees all community courts across the nation. And so some of their principles that we would have to abide by include enhanced information. So similar to a drug court program where you have additional information coming in instead of just this prosecutor and the defense attorney sitting there arguing about what they're going to do with the case. You're relying on other community partners that have had engagement with them, treatment providers, to kind of get the best information to decide how to move forward with the case. Also community engagement. So they really promote active engagement from residents and citizens to help provide not only the resources for the program, but to improve public trust in the justice system. So you want those that are victims, whether directly or indirectly, to be able to see that the justice system is doing work to hold these people accountable and make their neighborhoods and communities safer. So the three kind of things they hit on there is to make justice visible, to make justice accessible, and to make justice proactive. The third principle is collaboration. So engage a diverse range of people, agencies, and social service organizations, and representatives from multiple agencies in one place. It's to kind of bring the community, not only the justice back into the community, but to bring the community to the justice system and to make it so those offenders can engage kind of right then and right there. So individualized justice is the next principle. What works for one person, as we know, doesn't always work for the other person. So you're working to develop an individualized case plan for this person as they go through the program. Accountability, even though these are low-level misdemeanors, they still have an impact on community safety and the perception of community safety. And so there is still accountability for this, as there still should be consequences for breaking the law. And finally, the last principle is outcomes. The Center for Court Innovation is very big on data and making sure that this is working and that it's cost effective. So for this grant, I had to write a proposal of what this would look like for Hermiston and for the city. And so this is kind of the proposal that I put forth. This is just, again, it's not a concrete plan, it's a proposal. So the mission that I came up with was that the Hermiston Municipal Community Court Program strives to enhance public safety and quality of life by promoting participant accountability and providing navigation to individualized services and resources in the community. Our goals, of course, would be to reduce recidivism, improve public safety and quality of life, not only for residents in the city, but including participants. We want them to better their lives as well, and to enhance trust of the community and the justice system. Our objectives for the program would be immediacy, so reduce the time from offense to court appearance and from court appearance to treatment in order to swiftly address the underlying issues leading to criminal behavior. Court engagement, so participants will have a voice throughout their time in the program. They will have a say in what their case plan is and how they accomplish that, but it will be directed by the court. Problem-solving focus, so we will always be using evidence-based practices, including assessments and treatment methods to determine their needs and level of support. And of course, accountability, as you need in any justice program. But we will all be working together to problem solve with the participants for any obstacles that they face and help them to become that better person. So kind of what this looks like, or when the rubber meets the road, is that individuals could be referred directly from HPD to community court. So they might be cited to appear at community court, or the city prosecutor in reviewing cases could direct them to come to community court also. Our plan as of now, again, tentative plans, but is to just address kind of quality of life crimes and violations. So low-level thefts, criminal trespass, criminal mischiefs, as well as potential prohibited camping ordinance, because we are seeing kind of that 32% of the unhoused population. These are the crimes and violations that we're seeing come out of that. Program length could be anywhere from 1 month to 12 months. It's going to depend on what the participant needs. To get into the program, you wouldn't necessarily have to be homeless. That's kind of our target population. But so someone who maybe needs less supports might only need to engage for 4 weeks before they're kind of back on track and where they need to be, and could move out of the program at that time. So the process would be they appear at a community court session, they complete an assessment to determine their needs and risks of participating in the program. They would review the case plan with their defense attorney, and then if they are agreeable, they would review it with the judge and enter the program. And then at community court, they connect with the service providers that are part of their case plan. So that could be, as you can kind of see on my progress for case plan, mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment, employment services, housing services. All of that will be there at community court. Participants would be required to check in weekly or bi-weekly at court, make progress on their case plan, and upon successful completion, this would result in a dismissal of their underlying offense. So 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit Eugene Community Court. They've been going for several years and they have quite a big operation. This is what they call their provider room. So of course they have many more service providers than we have in Hermiston, but this is their room. So they just are set up all over. Participants cannot leave court without walking by this. And so they have no excuse to not stop in and check in with those providers that they need to check in with. Partnerships that I'm working on currently is, of course, with the Hermiston Police Department. We will need their support of this program. Community Counseling Solutions, I've been in conversations with them. The director, Kimberly Lindsay, did write a letter of support for the grant application. I hope to work with COPES and Stepping Stones Alliance as well, as because I think they'll be valuable partners in making this successful. So we have been tentatively awarded the BJA Community Court grant. Our request was for $500,000 and we were awarded that. That will be over a 4-year period. And that's kind of the breakdown of what that would look like. This is going to require additional court staff, additional case management time, as well as part of the requirement for this grant is that we attend yearly trainings. And so that is part of that budget that we are required to apply for. And then participant support. So clothing, personal care items, cell phones, that kind of stuff that they kind of, those basic needs, you have to meet those basic needs in order for them to be able to participate and comply with the program. Our match from the city is a 25% required match, so that's only $125,000. That can be matched in kind, and so my time, my staff's time, the judge's time, the city prosecutor's time, stuff that the city is already going to be paying for to process these cases can match that. And so that will be an easy match for us to make. Along with receiving this grant, we will be receiving guidance from the Center for Court Innovation. They really do set you up for success. They don't just hand you the money and let you go. The next step after, if City Council approves accepting this grant, will be for me to go back to the BJA and they will give me feedback on our plan. And then from there, we can start to work towards implementation. And so with that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right. We're going to excuse Councilor Myers. So you have a question, Councilor Berman?
Yeah. In regards to this, on your partnership part of things, you consider the VA as one of the partners to include in this?
That's a good resource. I hadn't thought of that, but that will definitely be on my list. I know we're going to need more than the few that I had listed there. And so I always appreciate feedback like that because you often know more of those resources than I do. So thank you.
And, you know, our Hispanic community, Jose Garcia and his organization, they do a lot with homeless and transient. Can't remember what the name of his group is, but it would be a great connection as well. What is it?
New Horizon?
New Horizons.
Yeah.
So maybe, Ms. Smith, could you explain how we're going to integrate this into our current court system? And is it going to take away from what we're doing currently in our court system? And will this be an addition to what we're doing? Or we're going to, you know, cut back certain hours? How is this going to fit in?
You know, I mean, we're kind of still, like Jillian's talking about, new into figuring out exactly what it's going to look like. But I would say this is not going to take away from what we're doing. This is going to add to it. I don't think that, and I've had some conversations with this, the court innovation folks that they're trying to enhance what's going on with courts. They're not trying to take away what's already working. But so I would say this is going to add to what the services that we offer.
So I don't know how many days a week we're doing court currently.
Jillian can.
For criminal matters, we have it twice a week.
twice a week.
Mhm.
And so will this be like an additional day or it'll be one of those 2 days? How's that all gonna work?
The tentative plan right now is to add it in the morning and do every other week. Again, this isn't going to necessarily bring new cases into the court. This is finding a new avenue to address those cases.
Yeah.
And so this is work that we would already be doing, but we're just trying to, like City Manager Smith said, enhance it and kind of do it a little differently to help these people. So I see it adding a couple hours a week to what we're doing now.
Are there any other community courts in Eastern Oregon?
No.
Closest one would be Spokane, right?
Correct.
You said
Yes.
Spokane, Washington.
Councilor Bro?
Just question on the community court model. I have some experience with the drug court model, but if someone that's in the program, they're not, I guess, following the protocols, are there sanctions that the community court has? And like, I guess, and what are those sanctions and what do they look like?
I have kind of limited experience with that. That's not something I've dug into extensively because it's kind of going to depend on each court.
Yeah.
Having sat in Eugene's community court a couple weeks ago, they had someone who wasn't compliant. And so a couple of their sanctions were increased community service work as well as more frequent check-ins. And then they extended their program out by a month because essentially they said, you're not on track. We want to get you on track, but you also need to do some more community service work, or they call it community enhancement in a way to kind of give back to the community from what you took.
Follow up, if I
Yeah.
may. I guess maybe just to be a little bit more pointed, could, I guess, consequences or I guess sanctions be like incarceration? Like, would someone be incarcerated for not following the protocols of community court?
Because this is kind of a diversion type program, essentially, my understanding what would happen is then they would kind of go back into the regular court docket. From there, they could be sentenced. So this isn't a sentence, this is kind of pre-adjudication, so they haven't been convicted on it. So we got to get to that point before we could do any type of jail sentencing.
Councilor Primer?
Thank you.
So there's three of us here I know that have been involved in it. This sounds an awful lot like the way the cab works. It's a very similar with the sanctions and so which leads me to ask, who is going to be the, adjudicator basically? Who do they come in and talk to? I mean, rather than sit in front of the judge as the initial part of this, how do they get basically into the system?
So they still will have to go in front of the judge. They still do have to enter a plea. And the judge is actually the one that signs off on their case plan.
Okay.
But they do have, I mean, the goal is for it to all happen in one day. We all know legal system doesn't always work that way, or they need to think about their options. But the goal is to get them in here, get them assessed and say, this is what we can provide to you if you're willing to do this program. And maybe they sit on it for a week and come back and say, yes, that's what I want to do. But they do still have to meet with the judge and enter that plea.
Okay, so follow up.
Yeah.
So, which, the part of your presentation shows that, you're wanting to shorten the time because, and I think you handed on a handout I got earlier during public safety, your time from site to court is diminishing,
Mhm.
which is great.
Mhm.
But even still, that's, I think it says 16.8 days or something along those lines.
And that was for traffic.
Okay,
Yes.
but in any case, from,
Mhm.
how, how is this going to shorten that time from site to, or from, from contact to adjudication?
So the goal is kind of based on looking at what Eugene does. So they have a certain geographic region of the city that they cite this in. We aren't really big enough to do that, but they essentially cite them for the next court appearance. So if their courts are every Wednesday and the officer had an interaction with them on Tuesday, they're showing up the next day. Now, did the city prosecutor have time to review that case by then? No, but they're hoping to get them through that door for them to see those providers and those services that they can meet with. And so hopefully by then the prosecutor can do a quick review of the case, and maybe it's not, like I said, that week, but the following week. And so instead of 2 months, we're now at 2 weeks. Whereas within a matter of a week or 2 weeks, they got connected with treatment and housing employment services, the VA. And so you're just trying to shorten that connection, not necessarily shorten the resolution of the case.
Okay, my questions weren't designed to, to detract from it, because I think it's a great program. I think what you got going on there is fantastic. I mean, obviously, CAB has worked for a large number of years, and, it continues to be a crown jewel as far as I'm concerned in our system, but I'm just
Mhm.
wanting to make sure I understand the process, so, thank you.
Yeah, I'm super thankful, frankly, that you went through this process and took on this responsibility and went out and got this grant. I've seen these function in other communities, and they work very successfully, and the leaders that I speak to in those communities are so proud of them. If we can break the cycle and intervene and get them appropriate services, whether that's shelter or food or phone, or help them with addiction, whatever their concerns or issues are, and we can get them out of that cycle. Hopefully we can remediate people and stop the cycle of crime that they're perpetuating. When you have 56% of your misdemeanors being created by unhoused people, maybe just putting them in housing will help them, keep them off the streets. And so I thank you for your leadership on this, and thank you for your willingness to, go out there and try and do something different, for our community, to help solve one of the challenges that we see within our community. I think the number one polling issue still across the state is homelessness. People are concerned about it and how we engage there, and we can't just, criminalize people for homelessness. And if we can find out what their issues are underlying that and hopefully break that cycle, then hopefully we can address that issue. And I think as we've seen across our community, it's become a larger issue that we hear more and more about, as well as, we've seen with our park system lately too, and what's going on there. If we can, actively help people get off the street and become more productive of society, I think that's what we're all about, and trying to help people recover. So thank you for your leadership on that. Any other comments? Yeah, Councilor Duran.
I like that we're meeting the person where they're at and seeing them for who they are, which is a human being. And giving them the opportunity to tap into the resources that perhaps otherwise they don't even know exist, and getting them those services that maybe will help them get into a better life. I think it's a great opportunity, and I thank you for doing that, because you just don't know their story. They don't know the struggles until they're able to get into the resources that they need. And so thank you for doing that. I think we will see a huge difference in our community, and a lot of families will benefit from that.
Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion to accept the Bureau of Justice? Oh, let's
You
take
don't
public
have enough
comment.
people to do that.
We can, it's a resolution.
Oh, okay.
It's just a motion,
Yep.
so we need a quorum. We have 5, and then a majority of the people here.
Okay,
Because he counts towards a quorum. He
Okay.
doesn't count as a vote. The mayor
Okay,
counts
all right.
towards a quorum.
I want to get us in trouble.
Let's take some public comment, though. Is there anybody that would like to speak to this issue? First one tonight. All right.
Good evening. I'm Josh Roberts, 1709 Northeast Sixth Place. I wanted to say, I think this is a great idea. I've been, talking recently about the siloing effect and how everybody's kind of got their own thing going. And I like that this is kind of bringing people together and having a new way of approaching it. My question is that $500,000 is only going to go so far. So from the sustainability aspect, my question, I guess, would be, what happens after that money runs out? Can the city continue in our current budget to fund that, or is that something that's going to have to cancel after we're done? Because I wouldn't want to see that go away.
Right. Great question. Thank you. Ms. Smith, you got an answer for that?
I'm not sure I can answer that 4 years out. I mean,
Right.
I would hope that if it's successful and we're doing things that we can help people, we'll find money to keep implementing it.
Can you apply for this again? Or is it just a one-time grant?
This specific grant is just for implementation.
Okay.
There are other federal justice grants out there that they do encourage you to apply for to help kind of sustain your program. It might not be as significant, but there are other funding options out there.
Yep. Maybe if you're doing such a great job, we don't need as many police officers. We take it out of the police budget. We just got it up to full speed, Jason. All right. Any other public comment? Okay. Can I get a motion to accept the Bureau of Justice Assistance Community Court Program Grant?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Barone, seconded by Counselor Primer. Roll call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And if I could vote, I would vote yes. So this is so awesome. Thank you, Jillian. We appreciate you bringing this to our community. All right, September 2024 financial report, Mr. Smith.
Yes, so you get to listen to me again. Mr. Palacios is attending the Oregon Government Finance Officers Association Conference in Eugene this week. So he's learning and going to bring us back more things that we can improve on. But is it good to go? So to start with the Urban Renewal Agency, right now we're on track for the project in the North Hermiston Urban Renewal area to go to bid in January. That would build the street that connects 395 and North 4th Street. And so that continues to move forward. We're in the general fund now. We're in the third month of the fiscal year. We just finished, this report is on after the third month. So some of the anomalies we saw with 1 month at a time kind of things are kind of starting to work their way through. We're still seeing a little bit of that timing based on, again, we've made a model of what we think the revenues are going to be like, but based on past history, but it doesn't always match that, both on the revenue and the expense side. So we see on the revenues, we're a little below projections, pointing out that, we did receive ARPA funds in the last couple of years that are in that model. That doesn't imbalance the budget. Those weren't in the budget, but it was in the past experience. And so just making sure that from the timing of revenue, it's a little bit behind our projections, but we're still looking very, very good. Anticipating next month, in November, we'll start to see property tax revenue come in to the general fund. So our projections on expenses are below, we're below those by about $750,000. Again, just timing on a couple of different projects. We had a couple of small overages in some of the general fund departments. But again, if you take that and just kind of look budget to date, 25%, we're still, those departments aren't over budget. They're just over what has historically been spent. On the utility and street funds, again, we've had different timing. ODOT is generally not consistent when we receive revenue into the street fund. The utility fund, we're a little bit over our projected revenues. And that's taking into account, we've added about 100 new services over those past fiscal years that are included in the projections, and we've had a CPI adjustment along with some other things that have changed up the revenue there, but still in good position going forward. The regional water fund, we're a little bit over our projected expenses, and again, we're serving more customers now than we have over the past few years, so that's was really expected. And then that's really hitting all the kind of the dollars pages of the financial report. If there are any questions, be happy to address those, and then I'll go into the projects. Okay. So we have a number of projects that are in design, Gear and Harper realignment. We have our plans submitted to UP, and anybody can guess when it will come out. And how much they're gonna like what we sent them. So that's gonna be, we'll let you know as soon as we find out. We're also working on a couple of the well projects in the water side, both on well number 6, chlorination, and then on well number 4, updating the controls. And then, as all of you who've tried to drive on the east side of the downtown area know, that there's a lot of construction on Gladys, Main, and Newport. And Mark, do we have a kind of a time frame on when we think that'll be done?
Sooner than we would like to release publicly.
Okay.
But, we're moving along ahead of schedule, which is good, but we'll see.
Great, thank you. Then a few other projects, the hangar replacement, the contractor has done a lot of the flat work. We're waiting now for the delivery of the building kit. They can start constructing that. The IT build out is really done. We're waiting on one small piece to hook the data wiring into the cubicle system that was installed. So they're already using the cubicles. Of course, they found a way to work around that so they could get going. But in the Harkenrider Center, light fixtures have been installed. They've been doing taping and texturing on the walls. We're still hoping for an early November turnover from the contractor, so we can have some meetings there and start to showcase it to the community. The EOTech Barns project, where they've started doing the concrete under the small animal barn. They put in the drainage system, and they were looking to start pouring concrete this week, depending on the weather. But that's moving towards completion. Then the Arc, as you can see, they've got some of the old siding taken off. They're waiting for the new siding, the new windows, but we'll be moving forward as soon as they can. Appreciate the approval on the phase 2 budget going forward. Then Public Safety Center, there's been a slight delay on the renovating the court space, but we're still looking to move forward in early November. That's been delayed just slightly, but moving the police department into the Arc, and then start full construction in the rest of the building. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, council? Not seeing any. Any public comment? Okay. And get a motion to accept the September 2024 financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Primer, seconded by Councilor Duran, that we accept the September 2024 financial report. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Discussion of city chats, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we, through the civic leadership presentation, they talked about trying to do more active outreach. So going and being where people are, talking with them. So one of the things we've been working on is to set up we're calling them city chats, because they're not always going to be in a place with a coffee shop. So couldn't say coffee with a counselor everywhere, but we're working to schedule one in November and then go kind of quarterly after that. We were hoping for October. That didn't really work out timing wise with one of the locations, but we've confirmed with 3 of the 4. We're going to work with Keg and Cork, Java Junkies, and Cup of Yo, and we're finalizing the 4th location. So over the next year, try to have 4 of these, have counselors sign up. There'll be city staff there to kind of support and answer any detail, or just hear the feedback and just see how it goes. That's the idea. If there's if you don't like it, tell us, and we'll put the brakes on, or if you see something else that we should be doing, let us know.
So if I understand this correctly, This is an opportunity for the community to meet with city council or councilors one-on-one
Mhm.
in a personal conversation, express their concerns or find out more information in a casual format. Coffee,
Right.
ice cream, whatever.
Yogurt. Mhm.
And it'll be like during the day and the evening, different
And we've kind of
hours.
structured them to be at different times so that different people might be available. So like the one at Capillo is, I think, more in the evening, but some of the others are more in the morning times. And so just trying to hit different times of day so that we can, you know, meet people when, everybody has different schedules. So
And a specific counselor, or we're gonna mix it up?
what we'll
among
do is we'll
counselors?
let the counselors everybody sign up for whichever one they want to go to. We obviously have a limit. We're not going to take more than a quorum. But other than that, then we'll kind of just go from there. But I'd encourage all of the council to participate at least in one of them over the next year. So,
Great. And,
got a question?
and the conversation is just conversation. You're not saying, this is my opinion or that's my opinion. This is what the council has decided to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a mixture of kind of maybe feedback and discussion on things that are still kind of just being talked about in the community, and then also, hearing the public feedback about a decision that the council might have made, and then trying to maybe explain it in a better, in a more informal type of a setting.
Councilor Peters?
So is it expected that whoever attends would have to pay for their own yogurt and or their own cup of coffee? And I'm referring to the citizens that might want to come and attend. It's like, hey, that sounds great, but I don't have money for a cup of coffee. It's like, would we be providing, those that attend, here's a voucher for like the first cup of coffee or something like that?
Well, that's something I need to work out with each of the locations, but I think we can come up with a way to offer, a basic, somebody could get a basic item at whatever location to start with, so.
Any other? Yes, Councilor Drawn?
I really like the idea, and honestly, I think it will be great if people decide to attend. I started replying to you, but I thought, wait, I'm in the middle of an election time, so who knows what's gonna happen next year? So that's why I haven't responded, but I really like the opportunity for the community members to be able to meet with the council members as well as administrators. I
Mhm.
think it will be a fun experience.
Yeah. And I think the city extending itself in a non-formal format makes a lot of sense. It may allow people to feel like it's more approachable, and they'll be able to speak with us maybe more comfortably in a casual one-on-one situation versus a public recorded meeting.
Right.
Or is it time wise,
Yeah.
a lot of people can't make it to this particular day and time.
Yeah.
They get a chance to have that conversation.
Yep, I think it's great.
If I may add something.
Yes.
Maybe considering adding like a Hispanic business on there. I know that they may not have coffee, but they could have,
Tacos.
yeah.
Meet on the tailgate. Tacos.
Taco Tuesday.
We could
Let's
definitely-
talk about it.
Okay, can.
Let's talk
Okay.
about it.
you did
I knew we could get a better name for it.
Right. Good one, Maria.
Check, please. I think it's a great idea.
Yep. And so if you're looking for feedback, it sounds like people are supportive.
Yep, so we'll put out the sign up sheet in the next, hopefully by the end of the week, because I've got a tentative date out there with our first business in November, so.
Excellent.
November's a busy month.
You also sending it then to the new elected city council members then?
I mean, they could come on their own, because at that point they won't mess with the quorum until January, obviously, but we can notify them once that's complete. Mayor.
Yes, Council Peterson?
All right, I am going to follow it up with my question. Is there going to be, like, for those individuals that might be homebound or anything like that, kind of a, I guess you could call it the fireside version, where it's like a phone in or a Zoom in version where people can, I remember during the first days of lockdown, my buddies and I got together and had a morning tea party through Zoom, and we all got dressed up and met that way. But I know that there are some Hermistonians that would like to participate in that kind of thing, but it's like, well, that'd be great, but I can't, like, I'm not mobile. So just providing even the option.
Yeah, we can look at that. I'm a little tentative about holding them, that kind of an event at another spot that I'm not sure of the technology, but we could do that as one of the events
Yeah,
here where we're
that's-
comfortable. We know that we can do the technology in a conference room or something, so at least usually we can.
Yeah.
In a timely fashion. Yeah, you could. I like it. So yeah, maybe a couple of them a year you could do virtual.
Mhm.
It's an excellent idea. Anything else, Council? Well, I don't think you need any direction on that, do you? Just
Nope.
wanted
Just
consensus.
wanted to hear
Yeah.
the feedback and we'll move forward.
Yeah. All right, we're now on to city committee reports. Councilors, got any reports? Yeah, Council Primer?
We had public safety tonight. Both Jason and Jillian provided a little bit of information. It was a bit sparse in here for it, as you might have
Mhm.
noticed. But basically, the big numbers were down. Property crimes were down 45%.
Right.
Overall, and most of the violent stats were also down, so it's looking really good. He gave us on some of the stuff that they're working on, the integration of AI into some of this. There's a part of the body cam system that they're looking at that may be able to provide translation services.
Great.
As it's being used. I think it's still in a working stage. It's not quite been deployed yet, so, but they're working towards that. The citizen RIMS is being brought forward. It's going up to 2.0, which, anytime they change the first number, it's a major change in any operation or any software system. And they're also looking at the ability to use, maybe get a grant for a portable or, user level narcotics detection system. Having been in this, deal with it, the most of your individual narcotics detection units are price prohibitive for smaller agencies and smaller cities like ours. Most of them run in the $25,000 range, whereas the system that they're looking at is a fifth of that. And if they get a grant, a very much considerable less. So it's a great program if they're able to go forward with that. I'm really excited to see that working. Talked about a little bit about Christmas Express, and there's going to be some more information coming out about that. Basically that, how it works, and it's a good thing. It's good stuff. And then again, Jillian gave us a good information on the court system, and a lot of what she actually went into more detail into what she presented earlier. So, but the basics of it is our people are doing their job to the best of their ability, and it's showing. So I can't say enough good things about our agencies that work for our city. So we'll get them team.
Excellent. Any others? Yeah, Councilor Brown?
We had a Hispanic Advisory Committee meeting. Just to add on a little bit to what Council Primer was saying, I also had the privilege of attending the meeting, and we did have Captain Enan present on the deflection program. So this is kind of what counties have been doing to address Measure 110 ever since it kind of gotten, I guess, ever since there's been some state adjustments, counties have been responsible to see how they're going to address those. And so we do have a way of how we're addressing them. I guess anybody that is potentially eligible for a deflection, our agency are still doing things very uniformly because it's a new program. Uh, Agencies have to decipher whether someone is or is not eligible for a deflection. On the front end, everybody is getting the same, I guess, type of citation. On the back end, um, agencies are figuring out whether or not someone is eligible for a deflection or not. So for uniformity's sake, everyone is getting everything on the front end. On the back end, our agencies are working to see if someone is eligible for a deflection or not. And so that was an interesting kind of a rollout. So it was really nice to hear from that. And just like Councilor Primer was saying, from the municipal court, I know we took back A's, but we've actually been really busy with B's and C misdemeanors. And so that was just something interesting to hear about. On the Hispanic Advisory side of things, we do have new leadership on the Hispanic Advisory Committee. So we have Alberto Munoz, who is our new chair, and Jessica De La Cruz filling in as vice chair. So we were really excited for those two individuals and looking forward to their leadership as we go forth and continuing to do what the Hispanic Advisory Committee is doing to advocate for the community. A couple different things. We also got new student advisors who were great. We actually also had the largest probably audience that we've had in probably at least a year for sure. Probably an audience of 15 to 20 people. So it was well received. And so that was really great. We also had a couple members from the audience participate and ask the committee and also us as counselors just giving us ideas, wondering things from this community. One of which was a couple businesses that were actually interested in communal kitchens. So kitchens that, or I guess a business type location where people can use a kitchen, a commercial kitchen, I should say. And so that was interesting to hear. It was really great to hear that from the community. We also heard interest about just people interested in any grant opportunities for businesses to try to get up and running. And so it was really great to hear from these individuals, some very, very specific circumstances, but I think the need was very clear that there are needs for a growing business community out there, and even suggestions like a communal kitchen or a commercial kitchen, I should say. So that's the updates I have, and was just really excited to feel a lot of energy in our Hispanic Advisory Committee meeting. So I'm excited for what the future holds for us. And so, yeah, I just wanted to pass along those two citizen inputs because I thought they were just really good ideas and, things in general that I think most businesses would be wondering as well.
We're good. I believe Umatilda's new incubator space has a commercial kitchen.
It might be.
So might direct him that direction.
Yeah, this individual said that they've been going to Tri-Cities because in Washington, it's much easier, I guess, for commercial kitchens to exist than I guess here in Oregon. And so this individual has apparently placed in multiple salsa competitions across Oregon and Washington. And so was wanting to bring more of the salsa business here. And she is actually from here, from Hermiston, but oftentimes has to go to Washington, to other cities where she can mass produce her salsa and actually be able to do that. So
Very good. And then small business advisory group. UEC still has their group for small business advising resource center.
Councilor Duran was actually able to handle that very well.
Good.
Yeah.
Chamber would be a good resource as well. Other committee reports? Councilor Duran?
One thing that I would like to add, as Councilor Barron did a wonderful job at summarizing what took place at the meeting, but just to put a plug for AARP Foundation, they came and presented, and they are seeking volunteers. We know that there's a great need for those, that are not able to go to a tax accountant, and the volunteers that serve this community are volunteers, and so they're looking for people to sign up. If they want to help with helping with taxes, they provide the training and will show you new skills. And so the lady left a business card, and Lily has the information as well. So if you're interested, they have a link at arpfoundation.org/tax aid volunteer. And that is how someone can sign up, and they will tell you more when the trainings will take place. But the need is pretty much from February through April, and hours may vary.
Very good. Any others? Okay. Mayor's report. Was a busy week last week down at the LOC. We had our annual conference last week. I was the mayor, so I had to, do a lot of hosting for that event. Or the mayor, I was the president. I'm also the mayor, but so I did a lot of a lot of speaking during the conference. Very well attended event. I think it went really well. We, as a city, got an award as well for our IT department. So Byron was there, and Councilor Harden both accepted the award for the city of Hermiston for our ingenuity and collaboration in our IT department. And so I think during the event, they said something about 5 cities collaborate. I think it's like 8 or 9 now.
Yeah, we're at 8 cities.
Yeah. And county. Yeah. So
County, couple special districts.
yeah. So yeah, it's been a great award. So along with, I think there was 5 other awards that night. City of Hermiston got recognized for our IT department. So that was pretty awesome. So great event. Excited to go to the NLC as well in Tampa this year. Hopefully everything's okay. Haven't heard otherwise that the event's still on. So just continue to get more information and be better informed as counselors. So thank you for those that are attending and did attend the LSC conference. Counselor report, anything? Yeah.
So it was brought up a lot earlier, but here last month, because they provide dispatch services, my wife I wanted to give her a atta girl. She was recognized as receiving the statewide APCO, the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials. She received the statewide award as Manager of the Year, and she was nominated by her staff, several members of her staff, and it was a very, very nice letter that they wrote for her, and I am exceedingly proud of the work that she does up there. She's been a dispatcher since rocks were soft and dirt was new. Yeah, I said that in a public forum.
Oh my
I'm gonna
goodness.
pay full price for it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I turn up dead tomorrow, that's why. So, but in any case, but no, I'm really proud of that accomplishment. It shows, her dedication over the years to the public safety community has been outstanding. I mean, well, can't be here right now because she had to help cover up there. So, that shows, she's the manager of it, and yet she's right now manning phones and telling people what to do. So, yeah, but and I apologize for not making the last meeting. I had some medical issues, so I had to cancel out on the LOC. So, my apologies for that. But in any case, just one thing to remember is if you haven't looked in your mailbox, your ballots are out there. Remember to vote. There's several names on there that could use a check mark next to them, so vote.
Very good. Anything else, counselors? Yeah, Counselor Broom?
I just wanted to give a shout out to our city staff and Al Davis up at EOTech. There was another big group that came this last weekend, a lot of Latino music, and I know that they were very, very successful at that event. I had friends from Nampa, Idaho come out to this event, so there was a lot of good headliners, and I know that they were really successful over the weekend. So um, I look forward to. I think this is a new promoter that EOTech is working with, and they've been able to really bring some bigger names into the area, and so that was really exciting to see and to hear. So
Cool.
just want to give that shout out.
Very good. Yes, Counselor Durham?
I was able to attend the Hermiston Aquatic and Wellness Center meeting on October 21st to have the second round of conversations, which I missed the first round, but it's nice to be able to get together with the different partners that, you know, will be planning hopefully for this facility to take place in the future years, and more information to come. I think we're just kind of setting some of the ground information to be able to make further decisions, which we will not be able to make the next meeting in November, but I'm sure the rest of the community members will provide valuable input. I was also able to come to the very sexy topic of open house fats, oils, and greases program on October
program.
on October 24th, which I was actually anticipating a lot of business, partners to come and listen to this information. But I was surprised, because, well, in the session that started at 5, there were only three businesses that came to hear the information. And from what I heard, it was a similar amount for the earlier presentation. So I'm glad that the assistant city manager was able to put this information together, as well as the architects that provided that very, very technical information, so that businesses would be able to get the information that they needed. And I hope that if folks are interested and we're not able to make the meeting, that, when they go through their mail or they look at the letter, if they have any questions, they're able to contact city administration so that they can get their questions answered. And, I was pleasantly surprised, but it's nice that we're putting something in place so that our pipes don't, and later we don't end up paying the price for that. So thank you for providing that meeting for people to come and hear the information. And it was kind of sad to see that not a whole lot of participation was there.
Trying to prevent atherosclerosis of our pipes, right?
Pretty much.
All right. Anything else? Yeah, Counselor Brown?
I know I saw it on Facebook, but we also have a new drop box, which is back here
Yes.
in
I
the
used
spot.
it today. Yeah.
Use that spot as well. So just putting that out there.
Yeah,
All right.
very good.
2 drop boxes.
Anything? No? One other kind of sad statement. We have a staff member at the police department that was found pretty sick recently. If you haven't saw that lately, she and her husband, just wonderful human beings, and sad to hear. So I know that they've got a GoFundMe account out there to help them offset the costs of their challenges they have ahead of them. So if you can support them, I would encourage you to go out there and do that. Youth advisory report. We have a youth advisor stuck around. It's like past your bedtime probably, right? 8:40. So welcome, our first youth advisor for the year comment.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's definitely past my bedtime. That's okay though. Homework can wait. Who cares about that? But I think this year's been pretty good. I think it's been a week since homecoming week. That went pretty successful. This week we do have a trunk or treat from 5 to 6 at on Thursday, and it's also our tailgate for a football game. And then I'm pretty sure volleyball has playoffs and cross country has district championships this weekend. Our boys are predicted to make it to state as they are ranked 8th right now. and then hopefully the girls will make it. I don't know. I'm gonna try to run my hardest, and then seniors are working on college applications right now. I know I'm stressed and working on filling out my ballot as well. So yeah.
Good for you.
Oh, and also the theater program is putting on a play, Radium Girls. I don't quite remember the dates, but I'm pretty sure they have a date this weekend for that. So if you guys can, I would love to see you guys at the trunk or treat and at that play and maybe at those playoffs.
Right on. Thank you. And good luck in your cross-country meet. All right. Very good. Ms. Smith,
It's Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday.
is
for
the
the
Radium
show,
Girls?
Radium Girls.
Okay,
Yeah.
Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday.
And there's 2 shows on Saturday, a matinee and
And I think you all got a ticket.
Tickets.
Yes, a free ticket. Yeah.
I have no items. I was going to talk about the meeting on the 12th, making sure we know who's going to be here, but that's all I had.
Okay. All right. We are adjourned. Hey, Clint.